This is Locked On Bets, the daily betting show that means business from the Locked On Podcast Network. Hosted by Lee Sterling and Kevin Rogers, they're dropping fearless picks with an inside edge to put money in your pocket. If there's action, they've got the lock. This is where smart bets start. It's Locked On Bets.
Welcome to the Monday edition of Locked On Bets. We appreciate you making Locked On Bets your first listen of the day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Kevin Rogers and Lee Sterling of Paramount Sports with you, and got a lot to talk about here. Preseason football, now it's underway this week, starting on Thursday after the Hall of Fame game kicked off last week. So we'll have plenty of NFL coming up throughout the week previewing those games, but we do have some baseball to get to. Also, we'll talk about the Indiana Hoosiers today in the Big Ten, as well as the NFC West in the NFL. So without further ado, Lee, let's get to the first pick of the day.
Oh, boy. Last one out, turn off the lights. This one's a blowout.
Lee, will begin with a player prop. The Padres and the Diamondbacks, they meet out in Arizona. We know Arizona's kind of waved the white flag on the season after trading away several key pieces. Padres, though, still with a shot to win the NL West. And Manny Machado, your thoughts on him tonight and his player prop against the D-backs?
Well, if they want to make the postseason and do any damage in the postseason, I think Manny Machado has to pick up his game just a little. Now, the series before this weekend, I mean, he was really good. 5 RBIs this past weekend, only two hits the entire weekend. But here is why I like him. He's facing Brandon Pfaadt. Brandon Pfaadt, you're looking at his record, you're like 10-7, quality pitcher. Well, this guy might be the luckiest pitcher, whereas Paul Skeens is the most unluckiest pitcher. You talk about giving him support. He's 10-7 with a 5.11 ERA. And how bad has it been for him? In 116 innings pitched, he's given up 20 dingers here. Manny Machado can drive the ball here, doubles and home runs. We like guys like that when you're playing the over. I like Manny Machado. I think he's going to go on a tear, and this is the perfect pitcher who's going to try to be a little too, cute and knows he's going to have to pitch a really good game to keep his team in it. So Manny Machado over the 1.5 bases tonight against Arizona. Blowout special.
Right out of the gate. And look, Lee hit on his player props last week to wrap up the week with, we had Julio Rodriguez in the Mariners-A's game, Bobby Witt Jr. on Friday with the Royals against the Blue Jays, Ellie De La Cruz also with the Reds against the Braves last week. So Lee has been on fire with the player props and reviewing Friday. Now looking back at that, Lee, and you hit on Bobby Witt Jr. again, one of these fast overs that you got with him.
Yep. He's one of the top players. He had I wouldn't say a slow start, but mediocre start for him. And you're going to see these top players as these teams make a push to the playoffs and also trying to either win their division or get better seeding for the playoffs. You're going to see the better players usually stick out and lead their teams. And he's one of those guys, as is some of the other guys we picked last week. If you're looking at picking obscure guys here, well, good luck to you.
And we also hit with the Giants on Friday as they led the Mets through 5 innings. Robbie Ray shut down New York. Giants ended up winning that game in extras and took 2 of 3 in that series from the Mets. But, I really like the numbers on not only Robbie Ray, but also the Mets against lefties. They struggled. They struggled against Whisenhunt, the rookie, yesterday in their loss. So that was a good fate of the Mets there on Friday night.
Oh, and teams, I think, are going to exploit it if they get into the playoffs. So probably stack their pitchers, want to go, at least 2 of the first 3 games against them in the playoffs with lefties. And Mets, they've got some pluses, but certainly they've got some weaknesses.
Yeah, and we'll see where they're at in that NL East race with the Phillies trying to pull away atop the division. Now, as far as the UFC card went, Lee, I know we talked about before the show today, but a couple of tough defeats in the UFC.
Yep, we had some decisions go against us. Wish they were 1-round fights because we clearly won the first 2 rounds. I thought, in my opinion, in both those fights, but Not the case. It's humans. We're not picking robots, and sometimes they don't follow the game plan. And let's give their competitors some credit too. I thought both of the fighters they fought were a little bit better than expected. So it happens. If a 6-6 week is the worst we can do, well, so be it.
And just want to go back to baseball for a second, even though we didn't have these games on Friday. But imagine if you had the Pirates. They were up 9-0 on the Rockies in the first, ended up losing that game. The Yankees were up 6-0 on the Marlins, ended up losing that game. The Marlins ended up sweeping New York, and they're probably one of the biggest stories in baseball this year, what they've done. But, you talk about it's never over till it's over. We've seen so many examples, especially this past weekend in Major League Baseball, of these blown leads, and it really is never over until it's over.
No, and then how about some of these teams going – in the absolute tank, like the Yankees with that $300+ million payroll getting swept by the Marlins for the first time ever. The Marlins are at 500, believe it or not. I'll be there tonight. So look for my X-Twitter. I'll put up some pics there looking for them to go over 500. And Sandy Alcantara is going to be pitching there tonight. Check him out. So, how Boone keeps his job is amazing. I mean, some of these guys, like in Miami, you got the GM that's absolutely horrendous on his 9th year. How Boone is like 6th, 7th, 8th year for the Yankees. How do they keep their jobs? If I did this poorly, I would expect to be fired.
It's crazy. It really is. And the Yankees, they've had just so many poor performances at times, and the Marlins, again, one of the better stories in baseball this year after they looked like they were going nowhere. And they're actually right in the mix now for maybe a wild card spot in the National League. But still a lot of great stories. Really quick, did you happen to catch on Saturday night the baseball game at the Speedway with the Braves and the Reds?
No, I didn't. That was one of the games I didn't have action on. Didn't watch that game, but saw they had a huge crowd.
They had a huge crowd, and the game was about to start, and then it started pouring. And I know they said on the Fox broadcast, which I thought was hilarious. I'm not a meteorologist, but they said, maybe 15 minutes. It was pouring. There's no way it was going to be done in 15 minutes. It was like an hour, and they pull the tarp off, they put it back on, they play one inning, and they stop the whole thing. It was unfortunate because this was their big spectacle, and they did a great job with it. And they had to stop the game after one inning, then resume it on Sunday. So I guess everyone that went out Saturday can come back Sunday for the game. And I just thought it was kind of funny that they had this whole big thing, and then it just pours, and they just can't get the whole thing in on Saturday. So
and a lot of people have to, they set it up to leave on Sunday. They come in from out of town, so their flights were disturbed, and the traffic must have been horrendous on Sunday. Going back to wherever they live, but the bars probably did pretty well that night, though, Kevin.
Yes, they did, and the Braves ended up winning on Sunday. So we'll see if see if they turn it around. I really don't think that'll happen. But we have more baseball plays coming up. The Rays and the Angels break that down. Also, football talk. The NFC West. We really haven't done division breakdowns. We're going to do that coming up, and also the Hoosiers, IU. We'll see if they can head back to the college football playoff coming up again this season. We'll talk about all of that coming up. You are listening to Locked On Bets. I want to tell you now about Gametime, and Gametime has been big here on Locked On Bets. Why? Because, you know what, if you want to go to a ball game, you go to Gametime. You know why? If you are going at the last minute, you want to head to a game with friends and family, maybe it's game day, you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands, it's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes that possible. Also, Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch. They've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. Gametime is the official ticketing partner of MLB, of Locked On MLB, and there are so many great games even tonight, depending on where you are in the country. If you're in Boston, the big Red Sox-Royals matchup at Fenway. If you're in Southern California, Dodgers back at home facing the Cardinals, Angels and the Rays in Anaheim. Even in Miami, the Astros and the Marlins, that's turned out to be a pretty big series as well. So if you are in any of those cities or any action tonight, Go to Gametime, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. We continue here, Locked On Bets here on this Monday. Kevin Rogers and Lee Sterling with you. We already got one baseball prop in, so let's go now with one baseball side.
What the WTF?
We're looking at a wrong team favorite here, and the Rays battling the Angels out in Anaheim. And Adrian Houser is making his Tampa Bay debut. And for Houser, he was dealt from the White Sox to the Rays. And obviously, you can only do so much with the White Sox. Chicago hasn't been as terrible as people thought, but also not a playoff team by any stretch. But Houser this season, 6-2 record, 2.10 ERA. But I want to give you these numbers, this comparison from last year to this year, which I think is very interesting. So last year at the Mets, Adrian Houser, 69 and a third innings, gave up 48 runs. This year at the White Sox, 68 and 2/3 innings, so basically 2 outs fewer, 19 runs. He's allowed 29 less runs in the same amount of time with basically a worse team. And he's got a career low whip, 1.22. For Yusei Kikuchi, who's starting for the Angels tonight, both the strike and walkout rates are down from last year. And Kikuchi's had some good starts. Also, he's got good numbers against some of the Rays hitters as well. But I do think Tampa Bay here at plus 110 is worth a strong look after they lost to the Dodgers yesterday. And we know Tampa Bay's kind of not really at a home this year. I know that they're still playing in Tampa, but they're not at Tropicana Field because of the hurricane that knocked down the roof. So they're at Steinbrenner Field, and they don't have that kind of cohesion, I guess. But going out to Anaheim, I think they'll play well. Also, the Angels, Lee, off of this comeback win over the White Sox, they trailed 5-0, came back and won yesterday. I think maybe a bit of a letdown. So, with all that being said, let's take Tampa Bay plus 110 against LA.
Say it with a little more conviction, Kevin. Wrong team favored.
Wrong team favorite. You're the one that does that, though. You do that. I can't do it as good as you, though.
You can. It's not terrible. Okay. We're a team here, so I like it. Wrong team favorite. I like this Tampa Bay team, so I expect them to come alive tonight.
Yeah, and hope that's the case going out west. We'll see if Houser can keep it up now in a new uniform. So let's transition to the NFL and the NFC West. We will take a look at this division for bet a little, win a lot.
They say you'll miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So bet a little, win a lot.
Let's take a look now at the NFC West, and a bit upside down it felt like last year with the 49ers being at the bottom of the division. They had injuries, just things didn't work out for them. You look at the Rams, they got off to a slow start. They ended up winning the division. Arizona, we'll see how they do this year. Kyler Murray being healthy, a lot of expectations on him. And also Seattle, now it's Sam Darnold at quarterback, see what they do. And they were horrible at home last year. So, Lee, what are your thoughts here with the NFC West in 2025?
Okay, so I'm going to start the week off, and my next two selections are based on fading a quarterback. And sometimes you don't want just to take an over-under. Maybe they've got it priced right. You take a look at a different bet, like Tampa Bay. We thought there was value in them winning the conference at 14 or 15 to 1. So I'm looking at this division. I'm studying the division. As you mentioned, San Francisco, they're not going to go 6-11 again. I mean, they're decimated with injuries. Now they should have Christian McCaffrey back for most of the season. Their defense was decimated with injuries. And they were down to their 4th-string running back at one point. So I expect them to bounce back and have a winning record. Rams, they had Devontae Adams. He and Puka, I mean, maybe the best 1-2 punch there as far as wide receivers, and their defense was good last year. They were close to breaking through last year and getting to the conference championship or the Super Bowl. Then you look at Arizona, and they're the wild card here. I think Kyler Murray's going to be better. I like their tight end and wide receiver combo here. I think they've got maybe the best tight end wide receiver combination. And then they added on to the defense. They added Josh Sweat, cornerback from Philly. They added defensive lineman Calais Campbell, who at like 38 years old, one of the most underrated players. And in the draft, I thought they got the steal of the draft with Will Johnson from Michigan. Should have been a high first-round pick. There were some current concerns about his knee, but he should be fine for 3 or 4 years at least. So I expect them to have a winning record. That leaves you to Seattle. And if you first just look at who they added, you're like, okay, Cooper Kupp, not bad, but they lost DK Metcalf. He was their deep threat. Now they've got 2 receivers, Kupp and Jackson Smith and Jibba. These 2 guys are slot guys. I think they're kind of the same here. I think their offensive line stinks still, even though they added a draft pick there. One of the worst 5 easily. But the main reason I am not a Sam Darnold fan, I think he's overrated. I think he turned back into the pumpkin the last 2 games. What you see is what you get here. I'm going to play Seattle here to finish last in the NFC West, plus 180. Bet a little, win a whole lot.
And I think, too, with Darnold, Lee, is that he was propelled by Minnesota's defense last year being excellent. And now Seattle just doesn't have that same kind of defense. So you kind of get masked a little bit, that turnovers, and you get good field position. You got that with the Vikings last year where, again, Darnold, great quarterback in college. It hasn't translated to the NFL, and he's had 1 good season. I just don't think that it's going to work again now with Geno Smith gone.
Bingo. You hit it right on the head here. So I think Geno Smith's actually better than Sam Darnold. So I think they didn't want to pay all that money. They saved a little bit. I think it was like 5, 6, 7 million a year. But sometimes in the end, that's the difference. The quarterback position is that important. The defense for Minnesota was incredible last year. And if he didn't have the best receiver in the NFL, and Justin Jefferson, he had the second best, and he had Addison. I mean, one of the best tight ends. Offensive line was real good. He's not going to have that kind of protection this year.
What do you think quickly on the Rams with Stafford not 100%, and LA really was not a factor early, and then they turned it on late. And we know McVay is a great coach, but what do you think now with Stafford kind of towards the end of the line?
I think he's going to be fine for this year. You know, maybe he gets beat up as the year goes on, but sometimes missing most of the preseason isn't such a bad thing. He's been through, these wars and through the NFL so many years. So as long as he's healthy to start the season, this is a real good team. I think it's a 3-way race between San Francisco, LA, and Arizona. I think Seattle is the odd team out. They're excited about baseball there, but football, which they thought was going to be good, and their defense is good, I just don't think they're going to hold up this year.
Coming up, we will talk about the Indiana Hoosiers. We will transition to college football and the Big Ten. Can the Hoosiers do it again next year? We'll see. Where you're listening to Locked On Bets. Locked On Bets continues. Kevin Rogers and Lee Sterling of Paramount Sports, and the Indiana Hoosiers, who were a football program that really did nothing for the longest time, finally broke through last year. Curt Cignetti, who came from James Madison, and didn't he out of the gate promise a Big Ten championship appearance, I think, at one of the basketball games? Didn't he do that like right out of the gate? I
think so. I don't remember him actually saying it, but I know he was saying some outrageous things, and people just, they had no idea. Who would think that Curtis Rourke, a guy that transferred from a MAC school, was going to lead him onto a season like that? But let's look at what happened last year. They caught teams. Before we
do that, hold on. Before we do that, Lee, let's get to we'll get to the official video.
Open it, open it, open it. Lee has the key to the lock of the day.
Sorry, I got so excited about it. I wanted to make sure that we got the right imaging in there. So go ahead, Lee. Continue with the Hoosiers.
Yeah, I got excited too. Yeah. So I loved watching them last year. And, unless you're a Big Ten fan of another team, you had to be rooting for them. I mean, they were a fun team. The quarterback Rourke was good. He gets injured, and even their backup played well. Now they're bringing in Fernando Mendoza from Cal. And there's talk. I see him on almost every single, prediction show of guys that are going to be included in the top 10 of who has a chance to win the Heisman, even the odds. So if you look at his season, you say, oh, he was pretty good for a bad team. 16 touchdowns is okay against 6 interceptions. Now, where's the hype? Well, he did well on national TV against Miami, but Miami's defense is horrendous. How did he do against some of the better defenses that he faced in the ACC or other teams? Against Auburn, mediocre last year at best. They scored 21. Well, you're thinking, okay, he'll get better against the ACC teams. Florida State, your Seminoles scored 9 on the road. That's it. Did nothing in the red zone. Pitt, 15. SMU, 6 points. And here's what's crazy. He was sacked 50 times. He only ran for 105 total yards on the season. It's not like he has much escapability. 50 sacks. I mean, they're going to be coming after him in that line. That line is mediocre at best. I love the coach, Kurt Cignetti. Like I said, really good innovator, calls a great game plan. But they were plus, get this, plus 15 in turnover ratio. If you think that's going to happen again, forget about it. It's not going to happen. And then their road schedule, they got to go to Iowa. They got to go to Oregon cross country and visit maybe the best team in the country this year is projected by most people, Penn State. I think those are 3 losses. The total's 8.5. They'll drop another 1 or 2 easy. I'm going to go under 8.5 wins for the Hoosier Daddy, Indiana Hoosiers here. That's going to be my level 1 lock to start the week.
Not to take away, Lee, from what Indiana did last year, because going to the college football playoff was still pretty impressive, but FIU, Western Illinois, UCLA, Charlotte, Maryland, Northwestern, Nebraska, Washington, Michigan State, Michigan, Purdue. Those were the wins last year, and they lost to Ohio State.
You talk about teams that were down. Usually Washington, Michigan are good. I mean, like every break to start that game, I think the score was 7-0. Washington's driving for a score. They tried to do a flanker screen. Quarterback throws it. Defensive end tips it. Goes into the linebacker's hands. Pick 6 the other way. So dream season. They're going to have a winning season, but they're not winning 9 or more games this year.
And you mentioned, too, they avoided Oregon. They avoided Penn State last year. They don't have Ohio State on the schedule, but going to Oregon and Penn State are not going to be easy games. They got a good draw. And look, he made them better. But at the same time, do you think Indiana deserved to be in the college football playoff last year?
Probably not. I mean, based on a record, maybe, and they were fun to watch for a while, but they got spanked, and they just this is one of those teams also doesn't have depth. If they get a bunch of injuries, you're buying guys, you're getting them to come to your school, it leaves you depth shy. So, they're top heavy in some positions. They got like Surratt, really good receiver, but a guy like Surratt goes down, or one of the running backs, Hembry, the transfer from Maryland, they could be in trouble.
So Indiana, we'll see if they can do it again this year. Lee doesn't think so, but I do agree with you. I think that it was kind of everything broke right, and now a tougher schedule on the road in the Big Ten will not be easy coming up this season. So Lee, new week, NFL preseason starting Thursday. What do you have going on at Paramount Sports?
Well, first, pay attention every single day. I think starting tomorrow, we're going to release some NFL exhibition games. 1 point, like the NFL games, obviously a point is important, but 1 point, especially these lines anywhere from 0 to 3 points, the line, pick them to 3 is very important, because remember, these teams do not want games to end in a tie. So they score at the end, a touchdown, they're going for 2. So you got to factor that in. You might play some money lines where you don't normally do it, when you're laying 1.5 points. So we're going to try to get on some games early before maybe some of these lines get away from us. How about this special? 3 games. I've already identified 3 games that are very strong in the preseason for week 1. You get 3 games, not for $33. If they use coupon code SAVE30, $3. That's right. Let me repeat that. 3 games, $3. If you use coupon code SAVE30, ParamountSports.com. Also baseball, 10 days, $50. You want to get on there. And football, football season, entire season, $1,997 from this weekend, Thursday, all the way through the Super Bowl on our phone service. We won 30 out of 31 years. ParamountSports.com or call 800-400-9741.
And don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Locked On Bets. And we appreciate all of your support. And also the podcast as well. And you can subscribe to that on your favorite audio platform. And things will pick up this week with football and a couple weeks away from week 0 in college football. And then, of course, next month, week 1 of the NFL. You can find Lee on X at Paramount Sports, myself at Rogers Picks. Again, we appreciate you tuning in. We'll be back with you on Tuesday. You're listening to Locked On Bets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network.